Well, this story, I heard this story at a women's conference at Ohio State University a long time ago. My son, who is almost 45, was just a baby. And I had helped with the calligraphy on the signs for the women's conference, and so my reward was to go to the banquet. And there were some ladies there from the Georgia Storytelling group, and they had the most liquidy, honey accent. It was just wonderful to listen to, but I'm listening to this story and I'm thinking, this is a terrible story. And I couldn't forget it. And I really think, I was thinking today, just thinking, and it doesn't work as well as it used to, but all of a sudden it occurred to me that that is the story that made me want to be a storyteller. So here it is, Little Dog Turpie and the Hobbyas, a Slavic tale. Now, a long time ago, so long ago that the earth was still completely flat, there lived a little old man and a little old woman by the edge of the sea. They lived in a house they had built out of hemp stalks, and they had a little dog named Turpie. Now Turpie, he was a tiny little dog. Any of you have one of those little yappy dogs? Nobody has a little yappy dog in this whole auditorium. Well, he was one of those little yappy dogs, and I'm sure you know someone who has one. And he was the best watchdog in the entire world, but the little old woman and the little old man did not know this. Every night, when it came deep dark, the Hobbyas would come creeping on their long, skinny toes, waving their wild tails and shouting, Hobbya. You can say this with me if you want to. Hobbya, Hobbya. And little dog Turpie, this is also required participation. Little dog Turpie would hear them coming, and he would yip, 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 yip. Do the yips too, please. And frighten them away. One day, after years of this, the little old man sat up in his bed and he said, that little dog Turpie barks too much. I can neither slumber nor sleep, and if I live until morning, I'm simply going to have to take off his tail. So the next morning, he went out into the yard and he took off little dog Turpie's tail, and little dog Turpie could no longer wag his tail when he was happy. But that night when the Hobbyas came, creeping on their long, skinny toes, waving their wild tails and shouting, Hobbya, Hobbya, Hobbya. Little dog Turpie, yip, 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 frightened them away. And the little old man sat up in his bed once again and he said, doggone it, that little dog Turpie barks too much. I can neither slumber nor sleep, and if I live until morning, I'm simply going to have to take off his legs. I told you it was a terrible story. Sure enough, the next day he went out into the yard and took off little dog Turpie's 4 legs. Little dog Turpie could no longer run around in the yard and chase the bunny rabbits. But that night, when the Hobbyas came, creeping on their long, skinny toes, waving their wild tails and shouting, Hobbya, Hobbya, Hobbya. Little dog Turpie, yip, 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 frightened them away. And the little old man, he sat up in his bed once again and he said, that does it. That little dog Turpie barks too much. I can neither slumber nor sleep, and if I live until morning, I'm simply going to have to take off his head. So the next day he went out into the yard and took off little dog Turpie's head, and little dog Turpie, he could no longer bark to frighten the Hobbyas away. And that night when it came deep dark and the Hobbyas came creeping through the tall grass with their long skinny toes and shouting, Habia, Habia, Habia. Little dog Turpie could do nothing, and they knocked down the door, and they chased that little old man and that little old woman all over the house. And finally, the little old man hid underneath the kitchen table, and they grabbed that little old woman, and they stuffed her in their habia sack, and dragged her on home to their cave, where they hung her on the doorknob until morning. The sack, not the lady, but she was in there. The next day, the little old man, the next day, it was that night, he crept out from underneath the kitchen table, and he said, "Oh, what a foolish old man I have been." And that was true. And he went out into the yard, and he put back little dog Turpie's tail. Little dog Turpie wagged his tail because he was happy. He put back little dog Turpie's 4 legs. Little dog Turpie ran around in circles in the yard. He put back little dog Turpie's head, and little dog Turpie licked that old man's face, and then he followed the trail to the habia house, found that sack hanging on the doorknob, chewed a hole in it, and let the little old woman run home to the arms of the little old man. Well, little dog Turpie, he waited in that sack. He jumped in there and he waited until the habias came and started to poke that sack with their long, skinny fingers. And what did they say? Habia, habia, habia. And then he stuck his little sharp nose out of that sack, and he yip, 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 frightened them so badly they ran and they ran and they ran, and they fell off the edge of the earth and were drowned in the sea. And that is why there are no habias today, not even one. Thank you.